This is another episode of Standup Comedy, your host and MC, celebrating 40-plus years on the fringe of show business. Stories, interviews, and comedy sets from the famous and not so famous. Here's your host and MC, Scott Edwards.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. We have a special audience of one show for you, and boy, what a treat. This gentleman toured with Frank Sinatra for over a decade. He's got 52 years in the industry. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tom Dreesen.
Thank you for that introduction.
Hey, Tom, it's so nice to have you back on the show. I know that you were a regular on the Letterman Show, something like 50 times on the show. Didn't you meet David Letterman at the Comedy Store?
Yeah, when he first came out here in a red pickup truck, and I came off stage one night, and he, was waiting there. It was like his first night in town, and he said, "I really enjoyed your set," and we became friends. From that point on, I started asking him questions about where he's from, Indianapolis and all that stuff. We became friends from that point on. A while back, he called me. He said, "Tom, every time you do an interview, or I do an interview, and they say, 'How did we meet?' you always tell the same story, that you came off stage, I complimented your set, and this was back in 1976, I think it was 75 or 76. I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, it's a boring story." I said, "But that's how it happened." He said, "I don't care, it's boring," he said. He said, "From now on, tell people you came off stage, I was out in front of the Comedy Store, and I had stole some of your material, and you beat the hell out of me in the parking lot." I said, "Now, why would I tell a story like that?" He said, "Because it's a better story." Now, 2 weeks go by. He calls me, and he asked me, he said, "Do you know the governor of Illinois?" I said, "I don't know him. I met him, but I don't know him." And he tells me that his wife, Regina, has a friend from Chicago whose son is an autistic adult, and that these autistic adults, there's some property where they plant corn, beans, tomatoes, and green peas and stuff like that. And when it gets into fruition, they give it to the homeless. And the state is coming to take that property away. And he said, "I'd like to talk to the governor." I said, "Well, I know the Senate Majority Leader from Chicago, John Cullerton. Let me call him." I called him, and he said, "Oh, Tom, tell Dave not to worry. We're taking care of that. That's going to be taken care of." I said, "John, could you talk to Dave and explain to him about the statute and everything? Because, you know more about it than I do. If I give Dave your number," he said, "Sure." I said, "Oh, by the way, John, when you tell Dave you're helping him, tell him the reason you're helping him is because Dreesen beat the hell out of him in the parking lot at the Comedy Store." He said, "Okay." Now, 10 minutes go by, my phone rings, and I know it's Dave. And I said, "Hello." He said, "Didn't I tell you that's a better story? I told you that's a better story."
Well, Letterman knew how to tell a story, and in getting you to share it that way. I mean, it is funny that have somebody beat the crap out of him in the parking lot of the Comedy Store. That's a great story, Tom. Thanks so much.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Stand-Up Comedy, your host and MC. For information on the show, merchandise, and our sponsors, or to send comments to Scott, visit our website at www.standupyourhostandmc.com. Look for more episodes soon and enjoy the world of stand-up comedy. Visit a comedy showroom near you.